Hi friends, welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new. Today's video is pretty exciting. So I got tagged to do this challenge I got tagged to do this tag by Armand. Their channel is called Squelette Cool. I will leave the link below. This tag was created by Angelica Lyremar, so I will leave a link to their channel below as well. And this is not like the typical eyeshadow palette tag, like the one that's like what's your best memory and all that stuff. This one is more like philosophical, I feel like. So I just picked out the products that will go along with each question. And this nail is hanging on by a thread, so let's see, place your bets on if it will make it through the video. If you have a channel as well and you want to do this tag, feel free to do it. I've tagged you. Like, whoever, if you want to do a tag video and nobody specifically tags you, just do it, you know? I recently did a full overview of all of my eyeshadow palettes, so I'll leave that linked below as well. So let's get into the actual questions. So number one is the eyeshadow palette that represents me in terms of the color story. So I think I could have picked one where I really like the color story, like the Ace Beauté Oceanic palette, which I actually used for another answer. I didn't duplicate any of my palettes, which was a feat. But I picked one that I thought represented me pretty well. So this one is the Glamlite Ice Cream Dream palette. Obviously not the outside of the palette. Actually, that's the second question, is the packaging that represents you. So that's not it for this one. But on the inside, so the colors of this one kind of are jumbled up a bit. When you first look at it, it looks like a complete mess. But as you look more, it still looks like a complete mess, but there's a little bit of order to it. Like, these are more bright pastels, and then you've got some like darker ones up here in the corner. So there's a little bit of order, but not really. That's kind of me. Because I have ADHD and I'm actually awaiting on a diagnosis for autism. I'm like 95% sure that they're gonna say yes, but you know, just still waiting for that like official. So I can't force myself to organize or, you know, do that kind of stuff, but also I can't function unless I'm organized. So it's a battle up here. Like, honestly though, I haven't used this palette much for that exact reason. Because I don't quite know what to do with it. But I do love the formula of Glamlite, and these shimmers are absolutely amazing. The mattes blend really well. I don't know what to do with it. The number two was the palette that represents me as far as the packaging. So for this one, I didn't pick my like favorite aesthetic packaging either. I went with another Glamlite palette. And I chose the Street Taco from Glamlite. But I love things that are like weird or unexpected, and I actually have when I got my first bank account, this is a weird, probably unrelated story, but when I got my first like debit card thing that I could order things online with, the first thing that I did was I went on Amazon and I found a makeup bag. Where is that? I don't know where I put it. But it was like a makeup bag that was like realistically printed to look like a taco. I thought that was the coolest thing in the entire world, so I had to have one. So that reminded me of this palette. Because like, unless you have heard of Glamlite, you would like, this is totally weird. Like having a palette in the shape of a taco or a burger or a pizza or whatever, but I do like that about Glamlite. It's like unexpected, but it also works. So number three was a palette that represents spring. So you might think of like pastels, bright colors, that kind of stuff, but for me, spring is like a renewal, which is, I mean, that's literally what it is, because like, you know, the plants start growing and flowers bloom and all that stuff. But for me, it's like when, you know, you finally feel good again and like this seasonal depresso goes away and all that stuff. So I picked the Slush palette from September Rose. So this is a rainbow palette, and I just think that represents spring because of all the colors. And even though you wouldn't look at this and think spring, like you might think summer, you know, because it's named after slushy flavors. But I would most likely use this palette in the springtime because also I feel like that's when I'm most interested in makeup and I would have time or like the mental capacity to sit and do like more intricate look or more colorful look in the spring than I would like in the summer, because right now, like today, I did a Get Ready With Me earlier and I just threw this neutral colors on. Number 4 was a palette that represents happiness, and you would also think, I feel like I picked like backwards products for all these, but you would think that it would represent like bright colors, but for me it would represent like simplicity. So I picked the September Rose Brew palette. It's like any shades you pick with this would be like an effortless neutral makeup look, and you wouldn't have to really think about like which ones go together or anything. It would just be pretty simple and no stress to try to figure out which ones you want to pick. And also this Cold Brew shade is like one of my favorites. I put off using it because I want to save it, because it's like the best eyeshadow shade probably in my collection, like as far as shimmers go. And number 5 was a palette that represents the dark and grungy in me. So I feel like I went through a phase of buying only bright eyeshadow palettes, but I also really like the grungy colors. So I usually buy a bright palette, but then I only use the grungy colors. That's kind of what I did with like the J. Kissa e.l.f. palette. I would only use like the mustard yellow and the orange, and that was it. But this whole palette really is like signifies grungy to me. So this was the Lime Crime Venus 2, and I actually just used it for the first time a few weeks ago. But this one just ticks all the boxes for like wanting a grungy palette. You've got that mustard yellow, the orange, the burnt red. If a palette has a mustard yellow in it, that's probably the only shade that I will use out of the palette. Number 6 is a palette that represents the girly in me, and there is not much girly in me, but since there is not much girly in me, like I don't really care about pink and like sparkles and all that stuff, I picked one that is like anti-girly. So I picked the Ace Beauté Oceanic palette. This one has some of my favorite shades in it as well, but this is an entirely blue and green palette. This seaweed shade is probably my favorite eyeshadow shade of all time. That is one of my favorite colors. Like, if I buy clothes in any color besides black, it's probably a green or some version of like an olive, like this. And I also really love this periwinkle shade right here called Bali. And I think also like the girly thing is about like being confident, and I do feel confident in like blue and green eyeshadows if I don't mess up, because if I start going for these like darker blues, that can kind of get a little scary. But if I'm mostly in the green section over here, I really like how all of my makeup looks turn out with like the greens and then the shimmers and stuff in this palette. 2 more. I'm roasted in here. The sun has like come up and it's over this room now, so tried to hurry up and get done before then, but it didn't happen. So number 7 is an eyeshadow palette that represents fun. And for me, fun would be like bold colors, but also mixing it up a little bit. So I picked the Colored Rain Vivid Pigments palette. This one is all mattes, but this is perfect for using like your cream eyeshadows or shimmers from another palette, or like the liquid. I like the e.l.f. liquid glitter shadows, so I use those with this palette. And I really, really like these like coral melon kind of shades in here. They're really interesting and different in my collection. And I also appreciate that it has an actually pigmented yellow. And none of my other palettes have that. And it's like a true yellow, not that mustardy. And then number 8, which is the last one, it is what was it? It's a palette that represents inspiration. So this one, like when I first saw this on social media, I was like, those colors, I would not have expected those in an eyeshadow palette. They kind of seem like they don't fit together, but also they could. So I picked the Ace Beauté Nostalgia palette. It's like these shades kind of seem odd, but I love this green right here. Like, I don't have anything else like that in my collection. I really like this flower shade right here. This pink reminds me of those pink popsicles, like the ones in the tube, you know? And you may look at first and be like, what the heck am I supposed to do? But anything. Like, you can do anything. You can mix any 3 colors together from this palette and it would still make a look. I mean, not like the ones that are kind of similar, obviously, but just, you can pick the green, a hot pink, and the yellow. I think it would work. This also kind of inspires the idea that you don't have to have everything matchy-matchy, but you can if you want. So let us know in the comments if you're also going to do this tag. Even if you don't have a channel, you can still do it. Just like write down what palettes that you would choose for each one. It kind of gives more meaning and purpose to your eyeshadow palette collection, because if you're like me, eyeshadow palettes are like the thing that you collect the most. And the lip products, but that's another story. So go check out Armand's channel if you haven't already. They do cruelty-free content as well, so if you like my videos, you'll like theirs. And they're pretty close to 100 subscribers, so definitely go check out their videos and subscribe if you want to. And if you've watched this whole video of mine and you're not subscribed already, then you might as well go ahead. Links to all the videos that I mentioned at the beginning of this video, there's going to be a lot. I'll link them all below, as well as my social media and my business, and I will see you in the comments. Bye. Oh, my nails stayed on for the whole video. Just barely.